The CryoPrep system is an integrated system for the collection, storage, pulverization, and transfer of tissue samples in a cryo environment. It works particularly well with difficult tissue samples, such as bone and lung. Inspect the box for damage. Check for all components shipped. The CryoPrep instrument with power cord, one CryoPrep kit containing 25 TT1 tissue tubes, 25 TT1P plugs, and 25 16mm glass transfer tubes. Place the CryoPrep on a sturdy bench capable of supporting 32 pounds, away from direct sunlight and other heat sources. Plug the power cord into the back of the instrument. This completes the installation of the CryoPrep. It is the responsibility of all operators to read and follow all safety precautions found in Section 3.0 of the User Manual. Some key safety points to follow are: the Covaris CryoPrep has safety interrupts that prevent operation if either the sample cover lid is open or the clear front cover is removed. The CryoPrep system is not designed to contain infectious samples. If infectious samples are to be run, the entire process should be performed in an appropriate biocontainment hood. Do not operate the CryoPrep without either a tissue sample or the supplied black tubing in the sample chamber. Gloves are required to prevent contamination of the sample by the operator and to protect the operator from the cryo environment. Cryoprotective gloves are recommended. The power button is activated by pushing and is lit when the power is on. The Activate button triggers the impact piston. It only functions when lit. To prevent accidental multiple impacts of a sample, the Activation button will trigger only once. It is reset by loading another sample. The impact knob controls the amount of force applied to the impact piston. The force of impact increases as the position is increased from 1 to 6. To load a tissue tube, use forceps to place a sample in the pouch of a tissue tube, centering the sample in the pouch. The sample should not be touching any of the seams of the pouch, since it needs room to expand during the impact. Next, a previously labeled glass culture tube is affixed to the tissue tube. If using the TT1, the culture tube is loosened by a quarter turn to provide venting during the impact. Plugs are available for storage of samples and tissue tubes. The sample is then quickly frozen by placing the tissue tube assembly in a cryo environment, such as dry ice, a dry ice alcohol bath, a mechanical freezer at -80 degrees centigrade, or liquid nitrogen. Covaris recommends placing the tissue tube assembly horizontally on a bed of dry ice, and then packing a few pieces of dry ice around the tissue tube end of the assembly. It is important to decrease the temperature of the sample as much as possible to increase the brittleness of the sample. Then, quickly place the tissue tube assembly into the CryoPrep by grasping the end of the glass tube and rotating the assembly into a vertical position with the pouch down. Open the cover of the CryoPrep and align the pouch with the slots of the sample holder. The assembly is then slipped into the sample holder until it is fully seated. Try loading an empty tissue tube assembly into the CryoPrep with gloves on to become proficient in loading samples. With the frozen sample seated in the CryoPrep, close the cover. Check that the impact knob is set at the desired level, and then press the Activate button. One impact is sufficient for most samples. Overfilling or too many impacts could rupture the bag. After impacting the sample, the tissue tube assembly is placed back on a bed of dry ice to cool the glass tube. If the glass tube is warm, pieces of the pulverized sample will stick to the upper portion of the tube when the sample is transferred. The sample is transferred by orienting the assembly in a vertical position with the pouch on top. Then the pouch is flicked with a finger, causing the pulverized sample to fall to the bottom of the glass tube. The impact chamber can easily be cleaned in the event that an overstuffed tissue tube has ruptured in the instrument. The impact chamber can be opened by turning off the power and opening the sample cover. Then rotate the lever at the rear of the sample holder 90 degrees counterclockwise. Remove the sample holder by lifting straight up. Finally, the clear front cover is removed by pulling it out straight. The CryoPrep system is designed to work with other Covaris instruments for the efficient homogenization of tissue samples and high-quality RNA extraction from tissue. For efficiency, there are two sizes of the tissue tube to accommodate varying sizes up to 2 grams.